I'd like to remind you again of our breaking news, the suspension of the operations of Dana Airlines. The Director General of the Nigeria Civil Aviation Authority, Captain Fola Akinkoto, says the suspension is with immediate effect. And no reason was at first given for the suspension, but the General Manager, Corporate Communications of the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria, Mr. Yakubu Dati, told Channels Television via telephone that the suspension is to enable them conduct an operational auditing. I do remember there was just last year in June that a McDonnell Douglas MD-83 operating as Flight 992 crashed into a two-story building at Iju Railway, Shaga, a suburb of Lagos, killing all 153 people on board. Once again, Dana Airlines license has been suspended, according to the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria. The suspension is to enable them carry out an operational auditing. A former South African President, Nelson Mandela, comes to mind as a freedom fighter, but it seems the African icon is now inspiring people across all facets of life, and this time around issues of environment. The Mandela family has endorsed the construction of the Mandela Garden of 95 trees in Asaba, the capital of Delta State, which makes it the fourth Nelson Mandela Park in the world. Asaba is now in the same league with New York, London and Cape Town to own such. Governor Emmanuel Durahan led the commissioning of the garden and the unveiling of a life-sized bronze statue of Mr. Mandela alongside South Africa's Consul General, Mrs. Sam Monesa.
It's the Mandela Garden of 95 trees, they call it. Although the former South African president comes to mind as a freedom fighter, but the issue of environment is what is being linked with this time. It appears for Delta State, the idea of a garden like this comes at a perfect time.
For us in Delta, the issue of environment has been in the top corner. Since 2007, when I became governor, we've tried to deal with the challenges of environment.
Key personalities seated and relevant agencies on environmental issues are represented. The 95 trees won't be all about the concept. A major factor here is the unveiling of a bronze statue of Nelson Mandela.
This bronze statue of Nelson Mandela.
Environment and then the Nigerian-South African ties comes to fore here. The essence of this garden appears to be far-reaching.
It's the significance behind that. The celebration of 95 years of selflessness and service to mankind.
Hopefully, when South Africans travel to Nigeria, they will not only go to Lagos or Abuja, but they will find a very good reason now to come and see the Delta Garden.
With the commissioning of the Mandela Garden of 95 trees in Asaba, there is hope that this will not only strengthen the ties between the state and the country, but also help in calling for more attention on environmental challenges in the state.
Well, since independence, the National Assembly has had its fair share of ups and downs. It has been cut short repeatedly by the military, burdened by scandals, and has had to flex its muscles against the executive. Now, as Nigeria celebrates its 53rd anniversary, we take a look at the relevance of the National Assembly and its major challenges.
How has the National Assembly contributed to national development? This is perhaps the question on the mind of the ordinary man on the street as the nation celebrates its 53rd Independence Day anniversary. Since Nigeria became independent in 1960, the legislature has hardly featured as a stable national institution. The legislature has often been the target of military takeovers because it is the only feature of governance that distinguishes democracy from military dictatorship. As a result of its less than desirable history, a federal lawmaker says the legislature possesses the least capacity to perform its functions.
Over the years, While the executive had continued to grow by accumulating the functions and powers of the legislature has been coming in bits and starts. And so you find that when the legislature comes back, it's always a fight to try to recover, their space and their powers and their structures.
Notwithstanding its checkered history, some lawmakers say the present National Assembly has indeed contributed to nation building.
We have not done badly in respect of lawmaking.
But for some, it's been a mixed bag of successes and failures.
In terms of lawmaking, yes, they've posted some really beautiful laws. But you will find out that in terms of resolutions, in terms of oversights, they have oversighted into their pockets most of the time.
Representative West Idahosa is a former member of the House of Representatives. He says the performance of lawmakers has been average at best.
It will appear to me that it's business as usual. They have committees, for example, on compliance to ensure the compliance of the executive arm of government with the resolutions of Parliament. How much do these committees go out of their way? How much do they know about enforcement procedure?
Closely linked to oversight is the role of a National Assembly in the budgeting process. Recently, the executive and the legislature were in a face-off over the 2013 budget. According to a former lawmaker, the National Assembly has not sufficiently asserted its powers in the budgeting process.
In the United States, for example, congressional powers are so strong that Congress can impound the budget. For example, Congress can say, listen, Ministry of Works, that money we gave you last year, you could not persuade us on the use of that money. We are recalling that money and we are giving you none for that vote this year. They have the Congressional Impoundment Act of the United States. I've always told my people, don't worry much about constitutional imputes. There are laws you can use. I don't know why you have not passed a budget impoundment law in this country.
Some Nigerians have also questioned the relevance of a National Assembly, seeing that many resolutions passed and never implemented by the executive.
The probe into the privatization exercise, it showed the most appalling abuse. What happened to it? Of course, they'll tell you we've made a report to the executive arm, and the executive arm did nothing. If they did nothing, what are you doing about it? So if you can't correct the ills, then your usefulness is in doubt.
Another sour grape for Nigerians is the perceived over-bloated wages of lawmakers.
In spite of all the shortcomings and criticisms against the National Assembly, the major challenge of a legislator would be to assert itself, impose its relevance, and prove that it really represents the people. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.